The sun spilled across the breakfast table, catching the fine china I had set out the night before. It was Liam's favorite set, blue and white porcelain, the kind my late husband, Daniel, had insisted we buy on our 10th anniversary. I smiled to myself as I poured coffee into the waiting mugs. Today felt different, alive. Liam and Chloe had just moved in, and my house no longer echoed with lonely silence. "Morning, Mom." Liam's voice floated into the kitchen, warm and familiar. I turned, and there he was, my son, my pride. His hair was slightly mussed from sleep, and he still had that boyish grin that reminded me of Daniel. "Morning, sweetheart." I reached up to smooth his hair before he ducked away with a laugh. Chloe appeared a moment later, her golden hair tucked into a loose bun, her silk robe cinched neatly. She was beautiful, no doubt about it, with the kind of effortless grace that drew attention. "Good morning, Chloe," I said, genuinely pleased. "I made pancakes." She smiled faintly. "Thanks, Clara." We sat together, the three of us, like a picture of domestic bliss. Liam chatted about work, Chloe talked about some new interior design project, and I just soaked it all in. Inwardly, my heart swelled with something unspoken. I remembered Daniel's last words to me in the hospital. His hand had been so cold, but his grip was firm when he said, "Clara, promise me you'll take care of Liam. Don't let him struggle the way we did." I had promised. And I meant it. So when Liam and Chloe announced they were moving in, I secretly felt relieved. I had already set up a separate account, a quiet safety net, to pay their rent, their car payments, their utilities. They didn't need to know. It wasn't charity. It was love. As we finished breakfast, Liam stood to leave for work. "Thanks for breakfast, Mom. You're the best." He kissed my cheek. I reached out and squeezed Chloe's hand. "You two focus on building your future. Leave the rest to me." Her hand went stiff under mine, but she just gave a polite smile. I didn't notice the flicker in her eyes, not then. At first, things were smooth, too smooth. Chloe and I danced around each other with the careful politeness of two women trying not to step on the same rug. Then it started, small remarks, almost jokes. One afternoon, I overheard Chloe on the phone with a friend. "Oh, you know us," she said with a dry laugh. "Living in the bank of Clara." The words hit me like ice water. When she saw me in the doorway, she smiled as if it were nothing. "Just a joke, Clara. Don't look so serious." I forced a chuckle. "Of course. Just a joke." But that night, alone in my room, I stared at the ceiling. Why did it feel like a knife? Days turned into weeks, and the remarks kept coming. At dinner one evening, Liam mentioned they were thinking of upgrading their car. "Oh sure," Chloe said with a smirk. "We'll just take out a loan from the Bank of Clara." Liam laughed. I didn't. "Chloe," I said gently, "I don't want you to feel dependent," she cut in, her tone sharper than I expected. I blinked. "No, dear. I was going to say, stressed." She smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "Right." After they went upstairs, I stayed in the kitchen a long time, staring at the untouched dessert I'd made. The day Chloe found out was a Tuesday. I had left my laptop open on the dining table, a foolish mistake. I had been checking the account again, making sure the rent was paid and that their credit card didn't overdraft. I heard the chair scrape behind me and turned to see Chloe standing there, her hand frozen over the trackpad. Her eyes darted across the screen, scanning the rows of transactions, rent payments, car installments, utility bills, all neatly labeled. For a moment, the world went silent. "Chloe," I began. But she backed away, her face unreadable. "Is this?" Her voice was tight. "Yes," I said softly. "It's what Daniel and I." But she didn't stay to hear the rest. She turned and walked away, her bare feet making soft, swift thuds against the hardwood floor. I stood frozen, my heart hammering. From that day, the house changed. Chloe no longer greeted me in the mornings. She no longer lingered after dinner. Her laughter, the light, musical sound that used to fill the kitchen, was gone. When I spoke to her, she would nod or give one-word answers. "Chloe, would you like tea?" "No, thank you." "Chloe, I was thinking of making lasagna tonight." "That's fine." I felt like a ghost haunting my own home. At night, I heard the muffled sound of her voice through the walls, arguing with Liam. "She's controlling us, Liam." "No, she's helping." "Helping?" Chloe snapped. "You call this help? This is a leash, and she's the one holding it." I pressed my hands to my ears, tears burning my eyes. I knew then she was planning something. The way she would watch me from across the room, her eyes glinting with something sharp and deliberate, made my stomach twist. The charity gala had always been my pride and joy. That night, I stood at the podium, the chandelier light glittering above me, the sea of elegant faces smiling up from the tables. "Tonight," I began, my voice strong, "we gather not just to give, but to change lives." The sound of heels clicking across the stage cut me off. I turned. Chloe. She was radiant under the lights, her gold dress shimmering like fire. But her eyes, they were blazing with something else entirely. "Excuse me," she said into the microphone, her voice ringing across the hall. Before I could react, she held up a stack of papers, my bank statements. "I think everyone should know," she said, her voice trembling but loud, "who Clara really is." Gasps rippled through the room. My heart slammed against my ribs. "Chloe," I whispered, stepping toward her, "what are you doing?" She ignored me and began to read. "Here we have rent payments, every month, on time. Car payments, utilities, even groceries. Clara has been paying for our entire lives." A murmur spread through the crowd. "She calls it generosity," Chloe said, her voice breaking. "But what it really is control. She's been making us dependent, so we can never be free of her." The room erupted into shocked whispers. I stood there, frozen, as my reputation, my love, everything I had done for my family, was stripped bare under the unforgiving light. When she finished, she dropped the papers on the floor. They scattered like fallen leaves. And I was left standing there, exposed, humiliated, my soul laid open for the world to see. The room was spinning. I heard my name being whispered, gasped, repeated in disbelief as if I had been caught committing a crime. The guests, my friends, my colleagues, the trustees of the charity, were all staring at me with wide, horrified eyes. Chloe's words hung in the air like smoke. "She's been paying for our lives, making us dependent, also she can control us." My breath caught. Control. I gripped the podium, the metal edge biting into my palms. "Chloe," I said, my voice barely audible. "That's not what this is. You don't understand." But Chloe wasn't done. Her face was flushed, her voice sharp. "You parade around as some great philanthropist, but you're not doing this out of kindness. You're doing this to own us, to make sure we never forget who holds the purse strings." A murmur swept the room like a wave. "Chloe, stop." Liam's voice cut through the noise as he rushed to the stage. But she stepped back, out of his reach, her chest heaving. "No, Liam," she said, her voice breaking. "They deserve to know who she really is." I could see Liam's face, torn between his wife and his mother. My heart fractured right there on that stage. I don't remember walking off the stage. One of the board members, a tall, stiff man named Harold, had gently taken my elbow and guided me away from the blinding lights, away from the shocked stares. "Perhaps it's best you leave for the evening," he murmured. "Leave? As though I were some scandal." I nodded mutely, my throat thick, and allowed myself to be escorted out a side door. The night air hit me like a slap. My heels clicked on the pavement as I hurried to my car, my vision blurring with tears. By the time I closed the car door, I was shaking. I had given Chloe and Liam everything, and in return, Chloe had stripped me bare in front of everyone I knew. When I finally made it home, the house was quiet. Too quiet. I was in the kitchen, pouring myself a trembling glass of water, when the front door opened. "Mom." Liam's voice. I turned slowly. He was standing there, his tie loose, his expression unreadable. "She humiliated me," I whispered. "I know," he said softly. There was a long pause. Do you agree with her?" I asked, my voice breaking. His shoulders tensed. "I don't know what to think right now." The words hit me harder than Chloe's public accusation. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, my mind replaying every moment from the gala until my pillow was damp with tears. In the early hours of the morning, I heard their voices downstairs. "You went too far, Chloe." Liam's voice, low but firm. "Too far." Chloe snapped. "You call this too far? She's been treating us like children. Like we can't stand on our own feet." "She was helping," Liam said through gritted teeth. "Helping?" Chloe's voice cracked. "She's been suffocating us. Every bill, every expense, paid. Do you know how that feels? To know that you can't even buy your own groceries without her knowing about it." I crept closer to the top of the stairs, my heart pounding. "It's not about money, Chloe." Liam's voice rose. "She's been doing this because of Dad." There was silence. "What?" Chloe asked finally, her tone suspicious. Liam's voice softened. "Dad made her promise. When he was sick, he made her swear she'd never let us struggle. This isn't control. This is Mom keeping her promise." I pressed a hand over my mouth to keep from sobbing. Downstairs, Chloe's voice broke. I didn't know that." By morning, I was sitting at the kitchen table, my hands wrapped around a mug of coffee gone cold. When Liam came down, he looked tired, his eyes shadowed. "She didn't know," he said quietly. I nodded without looking at him. "She knows now." I lifted my gaze. "Does she understand?" He hesitated. "She will." Chloe appeared a moment later, her face pale, her eyes rimmed red. "Clara," she began, but her voice faltered. "Sit down," I said. She obeyed, perching on the edge of the chair like a schoolgirl about to be scolded. "You think I wanted to control you?" My voice was quiet, but sharp. "You think I wanted to embarrass you, to make you feel small?" She shook her head, tears welling. "I promised Daniel," I said, my voice trembling. "When he was dying, he made me promise I'd protect you both. Do you think this money just fell from the sky? It's his life insurance, Chloe. Every payment I made was with money he left behind. His last gift." Her lips trembled. "You humiliated me with his memory," I whispered. "You turned his gift into a weapon." Chloe broke then, tears spilling down her cheeks. Liam sat beside her, taking her hand. "Chloe," he said gently, "when Dad was sick, I heard him too. He told me the same thing. He told me Mom would take care of us no matter what. She's not trying to keep us dependent. She's keeping us safe. That's who she is." Chloe looked at me then, truly looked, as if seeing me for the first time. "All those payments," she whispered, "every single one, was love?" "Yes." My voice cracked. "Love that cost me more than you know. Every time I sent that money, I thought of Daniel. I thought of the way he used to say, 'Liam will never go without.'" Chloe buried her face in her hands, sobbing. "I thought you were trying to control us. I thought." "You thought wrong," I said softly. She looked up, her face streaked with tears. "What do I do now?" she asked, her voice small. I looked at her for a long moment. "You live your life," I said finally. "And you make sure Daniel's gift wasn't in vain." There was silence. Then Chloe reached across the table and took my hand. "I'm sorry," she whispered. For the first time since the gala, I let myself breathe. The house was quiet the next morning, too quiet. I was in the garden pruning roses when I heard the door creak open behind me. "Clara!" I turned to see Chloe standing there, her hair a tangle, her eyes swollen from crying. She looked like a completely different woman, stripped of her usual poise, almost fragile. "I didn't sleep," she said, her voice hoarse. "I kept seeing your face last night. And his." I didn't answer. She walked closer, holding something in her hand, a bundle of papers. My heart tightened when I saw what it was, the same bank statements she had read aloud at the gala. "I stayed up going through every page," she said softly. "I saw how meticulous you were, how you made sure nothing was ever late, how you even overpaid some months just in case. You weren't trying to control us. You were protecting us." Her voice cracked. "And she swallowed hard. "I turned it into a weapon. I wanted to hurt you, Clara. And I did." Her words hung heavy in the cool morning air. "I can't take back what I did," she whispered. "But I can try to make it right." Later that morning, Chloe knocked on my door again, this time dressed, her hair brushed, a strange determination in her eyes. She handed me an envelope. "What's this?" I asked. "My savings," she said simply. I opened it. Inside was a check, neatly signed. It wasn't much, not compared to what I'd spent on them over the months, but it was everything she had. "I want to start paying you back," she said. "Not because you asked me to, but because I need to. I need to know that we can stand on our own 2 feet." I stared at the check for a long time. Then I tore it cleanly in half. Chloe gasped. "Chloe," I said, my voice steady, "I don't need your money. If I had wanted repayment, I would have asked for it from the beginning. What I need, what Daniel would have needed, is for you to understand why I did this." She blinked at me, tears welling again. "I do," she whispered. "Then that's enough." For the first time, she smiled, a small, tentative thing. That night, Liam found me sitting in the den, staring at the old family photo of Daniel holding baby Liam in his arms. "She tried to pay you back, didn't she?" he asked, sitting beside me. I nodded. "She's trying, Liam. That means something." He was quiet for a long moment. "You know, she was terrified," he said finally. "She's been carrying this fear that she wasn't enough for me, that she wasn't enough for us. I think she lashed out because deep down, she thought you agreed with her, that she wasn't good enough to be a Marsh." I sighed. "She is good enough, Liam. I just didn't know how to tell her that." When Chloe came in later, I stood. "Chloe," I said gently, "I rejected your check, but I won't reject you. Not if you're ready to build something new." Her lower lip trembled. "I am." "Then we start fresh. No more secrets. No more resentment. Just family." She nodded, tears spilling again as she stepped into my arms. For the first time, I felt her hug me back. The next few days were strange but healing. We sat together at the kitchen table, not as rivals but as women sharing stories. Chloe told me about her childhood, about the father who left when she was 10, the nights she watched her mother cry over bills. "I swore I'd never let anyone have that kind of power over me," she admitted. "And when I found out what you were doing, it felt like it was happening all over again." "I wish you'd told me sooner," I said quietly. "I wish I had too." We made a promise that day. No more secrets, no more silent resentments. "From now on," I said, "we talk before we let anger fester." "Deal," she said, offering me her pinky like a child. I laughed and hooked mine with hers. But the damage from the gala was already done. The papers had run headlines questioning my integrity, the charity board was divided, and my phone buzzed with reporters seeking comments. "I started this mess," Chloe said one morning as she found me scrolling through another brutal headline. "I'm going to finish it." "What do you mean?" I asked warily. "I'm going to tell the truth," she said simply. "Publicly. I humiliated you in public, so I'll apologize in public." I stared at her, stunned. "You don't have to." "Yes, I do," she said firmly. "Because if I don't, the world will never know who you really are. And I can't live with that." So she drafted a statement, raw and heartfelt, and called a press conference. The morning of the event, she stood in front of the cameras, her hands shaking but her voice steady. "I made a mistake," she began. "A terrible mistake. I accused my mother-in-law of something she never did. What she did was keep a promise to her husband and to her son. Every dollar she spent on us was an act of love, not control." Reporters scribbled furiously, cameras flashed. "She is the kind of woman who quietly takes care of the people she loves. And I'm proud to call her my family." I stood off to the side, tears streaming down my face, as Chloe turned what had been my greatest humiliation into something redemptive, something beautiful. Chloe's words reverberated across the crowded press hall. Her voice, steady but emotional, carried a weight that silenced the reporters. "I humiliated Clara because I misunderstood her love," she continued, blinking back tears. "I turned her generosity into something ugly because I was afraid of being small. I was wrong." The flashes from cameras were relentless, but Chloe didn't waver. "She is not the Bank of Clara. She is the heart of this family. And she deserves to be celebrated, not shamed." The moment she stepped away from the microphone, there was an audible murmur from the crowd. Less gossip this time, more admiration. Within hours, social media exploded. Headlines flipped overnight. Daughter-in-law's public apology goes viral, a story of redemption. From scandal to grace, the family that rebuilt itself. Comments flooded in, thousands of strangers cheering Chloe's bravery, praising Clara for her quiet dignity. That night, as we sat in the living room watching the coverage, Chloe turned to me. "I meant every word," she whispered. I squeezed her hand. "I know." And for the first time since the gala, I felt the shame finally lift from my shoulders. In the weeks that followed, something unexpected happened. Chloe's emotional speech had caught the attention of an investor. Mr. Hayes, a philanthropist known for backing small businesses with a social mission. He came to meet Chloe at our home. "You've shown courage," he said, sipping tea across from her. "The kind of courage that inspires others. I'd like to back your next venture." Chloe's eyes widened. "My next venture?" "Yes. Whatever you build next," he said with a smile. "But I think you already know what that is." She did. Chloe had always been an interior designer, but now she had a bigger idea. A business that would help young couples build homes with integrity, on budgets they could truly afford. She called it the Second Chance Project. "I want to give people what I didn't have at first," she told me one night, sketching ideas at the kitchen table. "A home that's truly theirs, not just a house they live in under someone else's shadow." I watched her, pride swelling in my chest. For the first time, I saw her not as the girl who had humiliated me, but as the woman my son had chosen, and the woman she was becoming. Months passed, and life slowly settled into something new, something better. One morning, Liam and Chloe sat me down in the living room, both of them smiling like conspirators. "We have something to show you," Liam said. Chloe handed me a folder. Inside were photos of a charming little house, bright and airy, with a front porch and a small garden. "This is ours," Chloe said softly. "We bought it." I looked up at them, my breath catching. "It's just down the street," Liam added. "We wanted our own space. But we wanted to stay close." My hands trembled as I flipped through the photos. "This is..." My throat closed. "This is perfect." "It's not just a house," Chloe said, her eyes shining. "It's our new beginning." When they moved out weeks later, the house didn't feel empty this time. It felt complete. Like the promise I made to Daniel had finally been fulfilled. The first family dinner at their new home was something out of a dream. The table was set with mismatched plates. Chloe insisted on them, calling it character, and the smell of roasted chicken filled the air. As we sat together, I looked around the table at my son, at Chloe, at the warmth that now flowed between us where bitterness had once lived. At one point, Chloe caught my eye. "I never thought I'd say this," she said with a soft smile, "but I'm glad we went through all of it. Even the gala." I raised an eyebrow. "It broke us," she said simply. "But it also built us back stronger. I'm not just your daughter-in-law anymore, Clara. I'm your daughter." I reached across the table and squeezed her hand. "Yes," I said, tears filling my eyes. "You are." Years passed. Seasons changed. The house that once echoed with tension now echoed with laughter, especially when the little feet of my grandchildren ran across the kitchen tiles. On a warm spring afternoon, I sat in Chloe and Liam's backyard, a glass of lemonade in my hand, watching the children chase each other around the garden. Chloe sat beside me, her hand resting on her growing belly, another baby on the way. Her business, the Second Chance Project, was thriving. Young couples came from all over to work with her team, building homes that felt like sanctuaries, not cages. Liam had earned a promotion at work, his face bright with quiet pride every time he talked about it. I looked around at this life we had built, the one Daniel had wanted for us, and felt an overwhelming peace. Chloe turned to me, her eyes soft. "Do you ever think about that night?" she asked. "The gala?" "Yes." I nodded slowly. "Sometimes." She squeezed my hand. "I'm glad it happened. Because it brought us here." I smiled, tears pricking my eyes. "Yes," I said. "It did." As the children's laughter rang out and Liam joined them in the grass, I looked at Chloe. And in that quiet moment, we shared something unspoken, An understanding that the revenge that was meant to destroy us had, in the strangest twist of fate, made us a true family. The bond between us was no longer fragile. It was unbreakable. And Daniel, wherever he was, would have been proud. The end.